It's Sunday night, it's 9:30, and it's time for the Gersnet Podcast, absolutely live, bringing you totally free Rangers content by the fans, for the fans. We're here to have the week's last word on all the Rangers news, so if it's your first time joining us, then please do remember that we're absolutely live, and you're very much welcome to get involved with the show by leaving us your comments, your questions over on the YouTube stream. I'll be keeping my eye on that throughout the show, and we'll get to as many of those as we can. The pod is also available, as always, for downloads from a Monday morning, so make sure you subscribe to make sure you never miss a thing. That'll be available on iTunes, Acast, Stitcher, Google Music, and always available on YouTube as well. Tonight on the show, we're going to be taking a look back at two successful games over the course of the week. We're talking about our chances in the League Cup final, looking ahead to the Porto trip, the Porto visiting us at Ibrox on Thursday, and also checking in with all the news throughout the week. My name's Ross Bennett, and I'm going to be your Gersnet podcast host this evening. And as always, I'm delighted to be joined by two of our Gersnet regulars. First up, it is the inimitable Pete. Pete, how's your weekend been?
Yeah, very good up to now. Enjoyed the game today. Was looking forward to it because looking for a bit of revenge over Hearts from a couple of weeks ago, and we got it. So no, doing well.
Yeah, we certainly made up for the poor performance at Tynecastle a couple of weeks back. Also with us tonight, it's a warm welcome back to Iain Leaper. Iain, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, really good, thanks, Ross. Delighted with the game today and the result, and on our way to another final at Hampden. It's great to get back into the swing of that, and a fairly convincing performance at the end of the day today. We've kind of strolled it in the end, so can't be happier than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's be fair. We never really look like losing that one. And like you say, it's a real pleasure to be back in a major final, even if we do have to return to Hampden once again this season. I suppose there's no way to start this evening than by taking a look back at the game this afternoon against Hearts. Obviously, a pretty strong 3-0 victory for Rangers. Goals coming just after half-time, and then midway through the second half. Philip Hollander getting our first goal at Hampden since Andy Halliday's strike back in the unfortunate scenes of the 2016 Scottish Cup final. It's been a bit of a tough place for us to visit, Hampden, over the recent years, with lots of stats banded around saying how it's 5 visits there without scoring a goal, 5 visits there defeated in a row. So it was fantastic to kind of break that curse this evening. Pete, how did you view this one, and who really stood out for you today at Hampden?
Well, another stat in that Tom Miller came away with today was that Hearts hadn't beat us since 1965 in a cup game, or a League Cup game. So I suppose we had that to look forward to as well. How did I see the game? It's sort of Hearts came out, I think, and they tried to put pressure on us. But after about 10 minutes, they sort of get deeper and deeper and deeper as our midfield started to get control of them. And yeah, just the goal wouldn't fall. I thought Kent played really good. Ryan Jack is, for me, really becoming we're going to discuss that later, but he was really influential today. Steve Davis, just all over the park with really standout players today. And we never gave Hearts any chance. Well, I think they had 1 or 2. The guy flashed a header from a corner just past the post, which was a frightening minute. But no, it was a stroll in the park, really, at the end up, as Iain says.
No, it very, very much was. Iain, I know you were at Hampden today. Did you enjoy your afternoon out?
Yeah, very much so. Picked the same players as Pete there. I thought Davis was absolutely immense again, a real standout. To where he gets the energy from, pressing players, creating great vision. He just seemed to come away from every challenge with the ball. His reading of the game was fabulous. Ryan Jack again, controlling and dominant and assertive in midfield. And then, of course, the goal scoring machine that is Philip Hollander popped up for the first goal. It was brilliant. It was good to see him scoring. And then, of course, Alfredo himself was just Alfredo. He's great to see him scoring. So yeah, it was. I don't think there was any really nail-biting moments. And think back to last season and that performance against Aberdeen that was so insipid. Where we had one chance and we had a striker who decided to throw himself to the ground. There was just so much more today than there was during that performance. So much better all round, particularly from the midfield. There really is engines in there. And I thought we could have had more penetration in the first half. Particularly with Ojo and Kent in the wide positions, but we got there in the end, and it's over 90 minutes, so that's what counts. And we created 2 or 3 really good chances that we took, and we could have had more if the luck had fallen our way a wee bit more. But no, I'm delighted to have gone through so comfortably.
I must say though, I think Ojo is really improving as a player. A few weeks ago, that we were all sitting saying, "Oh, do we think he'll make it?" But I really think the last 2 or 3 games, he's really coming on to a game, and he tracks back a lot more than he was in the past. So I think Gerrard's sort of working his magic on him, and hopefully he'll be the same as Kent by the end of the season.
Now, you see, I'm actually going to disagree with you, Pete. I think it was probably myself a few weeks back that was tearing into Shea Ojo. And my opinion on the lad's not really changing. I'm wondering if we've got some kind of agreement with Liverpool that if he's fit, he has to start a certain percentage of games, because to me, he's still making all the wrong decisions. His execution's not good enough. I find that he sort of, if the game's in the balance, he goes missing, and then he pops up in games like today when we're already 2 or 3 goals up and it's all rosy. But I mean, so what is it exactly that's making you think that he's improving as a player?
Well, as I said, he's tracking back. He seems to go into tackles a lot quicker than he did at the beginning. He seemed to be really frightened of them in the beginning. I've even seen him get putting a few headers in, jumping for headers with opposition players. And I just think his all-round game is picked up. You're also starting to see a bit of the speed that he's got when he tries to get past players. No, I really think he's making a positive impact. He's not a finished article yet, but I certainly think he's improved over the last 2 or 3 games than in the beginning, because I was like you at the beginning. I thought, well, yeah, will he make it? Is he a Rangers class player? And he's still not, but I think he's certainly improving to get there.
Look, I mean, personally, I think he's still got a way to go, but I certainly, as Graham says here on the YouTube stream, Ojo had a good second half. I think that kind of sums up the point that I'm trying to make, is that he had a good second half because the game was put to bed, and he could play with a bit of freedom and a bit of confidence. And actually, it's something that's sort of, I don't know, maybe it slightly sums up the rest of the team as well. Is it possible that, I always think with this Rangers team at the moment, we're quite tense and we're quite constricted until we get that first goal, and then the confidence starts to flow. Iain, I know that before we came on live this evening, you were saying just before we went on air that you thought the first half was a little bit disappointing and a little bit turgid. Do you think maybe there's a confidence thing that once we do find a way to get that first goal, the players can be a little bit more expressive?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a truth in that, Ross. But the problem is we're going to play games this season where you can't bank on getting that first goal, and we're going to have to play to that expressive standard you speak about to probably create the first goal. I did think today, going forward, I was perhaps had over expectations, but I thought with the 2 wide players would create a lot more than what I saw in the first half. So I see both sides of the argument with Shea Ojo, but I mean, I think there's other players in there that should be looking, your Scotty Arfields and your Joe Aribos. When someone like Steve Davis is dominating the midfield so much, and thank God he's in the form of his life, because it would have been a fairly been a few struggles over the last few weeks with the midfield performances that they've been, if had it not been for Davis absolutely running things. But these other players probably need to start having a look at themselves, your Scotty Arfields and things like that, because I don't think, I mean, Ojo does drift out of games. I think there's no doubt about that. But there's others there who seem to be certainly not facing some of the criticism, but that he is. But I think they need to stand up and be counted as well. And I think it's they can't just start playing when they go a goal up, because there'll be games against Celtic where they're going to have to play probably to their best to open them up, and we can't afford them to be off song because they're not relaxed enough. They really need to be more assertive and self-confidence to be able to do it, because they can do it. I mean, we saw against Ross County an absolutely sublime performance. So they know they can do it, but it is a bit concerning that in some games they just seem to fade away until a first goal goes in. Or even worse, the opposition get that first goal and we're hunting games. And I think you're right that they do seem to there's a bloom. It's probably the word when they get that first goal in, get a bit of comfort. They seem to play a lot more expressively and a lot more adventurously, and we're needing to do that week in, week out.
You see, I'm definitely going to agree with you on Scotty Arfield there. I mean, what's happened to the player that we saw in the second Old Firm game at Ibrox last season? The player who tore Celtic apart along, I don't know if it's his confidence, I don't know if it's age, if he's peaked, I don't know if it's the competition. I mean, what's kind of a blessing, like you say, and as there's some comments here on the YouTube as well from Chick saying that Aribo as well doesn't seem to have the bottle for the fight. So we have I remember sitting on this podcast and slightly complaining at the number of midfielders we were stockpiling with Steve Davis, Ryan, Glenn Kamara, Joe Aribo, Scotty Arfield. But it does seem that we need all of them, because some of them aren't performing and others are in the form of their life. You look at Ryan Jack and you look, as you say, Stephen Davis, they're in the form of their life. So thankfully, it doesn't seem to have so much of an effect that your Scotty Arfields or your Joe Aribos aren't firing as much as we know they can. Now, look, I don't want this show to turn too negative on the back of a day where we've got into the final of a major trophy. 2 weeks ago, we played Hearts, and I was there at Tynecastle, and we struggled. Right, we were flat, we were listless, we were dull, uninspiring. Pete, today we were dominant, particularly in that second half. So what changed from 2 weeks ago, and what lessons did we learn from that draw at Tynecastle?
Well, for me, one word can give you the answer, and that is Ryan. Ryan Jack wasn't playing there, and for me, you just miss. If Jack's not playing, we struggle in the midfield. And I know you put it a lot. Iain puts a lot down to Davis, but I think without Ryan Jack in that midfield, we would really struggle. And we've seen that in games that he's not played. So that's the biggest difference for me. That if you see the work that guy goes through, and he's always winning balls back, and he covers up for Tavernier a lot, so if he's there, Tavernier's got a lot more freedom to go forward. And plus the fact I was a bit surprised they never played the big centre forward, coloured centre forward. What was it? Is a gear or something like that you call him?
Uche Ikpeazu.
Yeah, I was quite surprised they never played him from the beginning of today. I think that because he gave us so much trouble at Tynecastle. Although there's then, and I have to admit that I was giving the defenders a lot of problems and wanted Katic in the team, but Katic really struggled against them, and I don't think Helander struggled as much as Katic did today, even when he came on, when the big centre forward came on. So I think that's a number of things, but for me the biggest is Ryan Jack.
I mean, it's impressive the impact that man's had over the last few games, and actually we're going to focus a wee bit more on Ryan Jack a little bit later on in the show, particularly when we discuss his performance against Ross County, when one of the best centre midfield performances that I can remember seeing in the Scottish Premier League game for a long time. Iain, I think today was a very, very positive day, and we showed that we did learn lessons from the draw at Tynecastle. Obviously, we knew that Hearts would come out and be physical and try and dominate the fight and the battles in the first 10 minutes. And we really learned from that, and we learned how to cope with that. One thing that still slightly concerns me, though, is Goldson and Hollander with a cross ball or a high ball coming into the box seem to flap or seem to panic. I've mentioned before that the pair of them sometimes have a tendency to let the ball drop and then try and deal with it. Do you have any reservations around Goldson and Hollander as a centre-half pairing?
Not really. I think I saw enough of Connor Goldson last season to think he's a fairly reliable defender. I think he's probably, along with Tav, having a wee bit of a dip in confidence at the moment. And I do like Philip Hollander. I think against Porto he was just standout. He was just so good. So no, I've no real reservation. I just think at times there was a couple of times today, and I don't want to make it negative, but there was a couple of faux pas from Tav that against a better team might have been punished a lot more. But I think it seems to be almost a concentration thing at times. But I don't think that they're bad defenders. I think they're good defenders, perhaps lacking a wee bit in confidence at the moment. And every clean sheet that they get behind them will hopefully boost that a bit. But pairing wise, I mean, I'm a wee bit like Pete. I think my go-to would have been Katic before Goldson, but Iain Hollander seems to be putting in decent shifts. So no, I've no real concerns. I think I'd be more worried about players running at them than cross balls into the box. But no, I don't think there's anything. I mean, Connor Goldson was tremendous, particularly at the start of last season, and really quite an accomplished centre back. Good reading of the game, good positioning. So no, I don't. I think maybe just they need. I always think it's good to have a regular back four that know each other inside out. Particularly for playing offside traps and keeping the line. I don't think it's something that should be tinkered with. I remember that great Arsenal back four from the 80s, I think it was. They were so well drilled. They knew which each other was doing, and invariably from playing week in, week out. So if there's any four positions I wouldn't like to see rotated, it'd be the back four. I'd rather it was the same four appearing week in, week out with any changes, chopping and changing. But Stephen Gerrard has got a lot more football experience than me, so he probably knows what he's doing. But I think most of us would probably have gone for a big Nico today. But there we go. We went with Hollander and Goldson. We kept a clean sheet. So what do we know?
Well, exactly. That's just it. That's 2 clean sheets on the bounce now. A strong defensive performance, I thought, out in Portugal. It's nice problems to have. We've got 3 and arguably 4 very, very strong centre halves. And before we come on and do every show every week, I'm looking for faults and things that we can talk about. And the fact that today the only fault really that I can find is that sometimes Goldson and Hollander struggle to deal with a cross ball or a high ball into the box means that we've had a pretty damn good day. Iain, before we move on from the game today, Alfredo Morelos has hit 20 goals this season. Right, he hit 19 and 20 today, and it is the 3rd of November. I mean, it's a quite staggering return. And, if you extrapolate that over the season, we could be looking at this boy hitting 40 goals, and that's not happened for us for a very, very long time.
No.
What do you reckon is the risk of Alfredo in January? The media still seem quite keen to talk up his desire to go down to England. That was reported again throughout the week. Do you think there's a chance that he'll be out the door in January?
Well, I saw some comments on Twitter about Steven Gerrard saying he was confident to be here in January, but I mean, I don't know how much certainty there is to that. But it'd be a big loss for us, in a season we're pushing for the league to lose your number one goal scoring machine, and he is a goal scoring machine. I mean, that second goal he got against Ross County through the week, that was an absolute belter from a tight angle. The confidence was there, for him to spank it from such a tight angle. It was only ever going in. He knew as soon as it left his foot, it was going in. It'd be a huge loss for us, and I don't think. I think it's really going to test the board's mettle come January, because obviously, we spoke beforehand about the accounts being out, and there will be a need to balance the books, and he's obviously the asset that is most likely to be sold to do that. But it's a big decision for a board with a young, ambitious manager who's to sell your most potent member of your strike force. And of course, even if it was to come to that, January's not a good time to be getting replacements in. I think history's shown us that it's not a good time to be buying in January. So there wouldn't be a ready replacement. I mean, I know Jermaine Defoe's there, but you're needing more than that for a season campaign, particularly if we're still running in Europe as well, and we're challenging for the league, and the Scottish Cup will be coming round as well. So there's quite a lot of demands in the squad. But you're absolutely right. He's just absolute goal scoring machine at the moment. I mean, the goal he scored in Porto was an absolute belter. The way he took it, it was an absolutely beautiful goal. Borna's pass, Kent's pass to Borna, and then Borna's pass into Alfredo, and the way he brought it down, controlled it, and then just spanked it home. It was a brilliant goal. But I thought the goal that really impressed me was the second goal against Ross County, because he was at such a difficult angle with not a lot to aim at, and he just found the sweet spot beautifully. And it's obviously a striker at the top of his game at the moment. He certainly is.
Absolutely. I mean, the boy's just a different class. He's unlike anything that we've seen in Scotland for a very, very long time. What I worry though, and as JM says here on the stream, Gerrard said in his post-match comments, the boy's going nowhere, right? Alfredo is going nowhere, and that he's 100% confident of that. What I worry is that it might be out of Gerrard's hands, and that if we are, tempted by a monumental record-breaking offer, then the board is going to, as you mentioned, the accounts, and we'll come on to the accounts a little bit later on in the show, the board is going to have to take a look at that seriously. I mean, Pete, do you reckon it's possible that there's a line that the board are setting, and that if we are X number of points behind Celtic in January, we can cash in? Or do you think there's maybe a monetary value that the board would place on Morelos in January?
Well, I'm going to say we're not going to be points behind Celtic in January, so that would clear that question up. But obviously there's a price tag in everybody, and we need to balance the books. But Gerrard didn't say he was confident he wouldn't go. Gerrard said, I'm 100% sure he won't go. So I don't think he'll be leaving in January. Next summer's probably another question, but I doubt very much if he'll be leaving in January. And the question is, what is? Crystal Palace was thought to be 20 million for him, but 20 million for me, 20 million wouldn't even get near him now, because he was worth that about last year. We wanted that, and look at the way the goals he's got this year, the way he's playing this year. So for me, it would need to be a massive offer before we would accept that. And I don't think the board would. I mean, they know. I think they would, if they'd done that. I think they would know Gerrard would walk away. and I don't think they're willing to for that.
They would be risking a huge amount of goodwill that they've got with the fans. I mean, the fans are by and large very much on side with this current regime. But you know, if Alfredo was to leave the club in January and we were to lose the title by a couple of points, you have to imagine that would be fatal for this board. Guys, well, I'm conscious of time, so I'd like to quickly touch upon the Ross County game on Wednesday evening. Obviously, a long trip up to Dingwall and returned very successfully with 3 points. Another very, very, very strong performance in a game that arguably could have been a real banana skin. And again, last season might have been one that we would have struggled to take points from. Pete, what did this performance say about the mentality and the character of the squad?
Well, they always say a cold night in Dingwall is one of the worst games you can have. So, well, I've got to come back to Ryan Jack and what he brings to the team. It was just absolutely far out the man of the match. So I think he certainly brings a lot of steel to the midfield. I must say, Ross County weren't very good. And if you look at the way I think Celtic put 6 past them, did they? So they're not a very good team. So I don't really think we can take a lot out of beating them 4-0 because I just don't think they're that good at the moment, and their confidence seems to be pretty low. So, but yeah, I think over the whole season that you've got to look at. There's certainly a lot more steel in the team than there was. We've played far better one-touch football. I mean, Iain had over the goal against Porto when Kent flicked the ball to Barisic. Barisic virtually first touch to Morelos. There's so many. Even today, there was a few one-touch passes that you're thinking, God, that's brilliant. I'm not used to this from a Rangers team for the last years. So I think, I certainly think we're far further than we were. And hopefully we'll still grow. That's because it's quite a new team, really. There's only a few that were there. I mean, you can even say that Davies is quite new. No, Jack's been there a few years now. No, I really think, but I think Gerrard's learned a lot as well. To go back to the Hearts game today, sorry for a minute. I think if he'd have played Aribo today, I think we would have been too concentrated in the centre. So putting on 2 wingers pulled Hearts apart, and I think that's another reason that Rangers had it a lot easier today, because the 2 wingers pulled the Hearts wide. But anyway, to go back, I think no, we're far better placed than we were a year ago.
I agree, Pete. We're a different proposition mentally, a different proposition on the park. You just see it in Gerrard's interviews at the moment. You know, he said after the game today, he felt so much more confident today than he was 12 months ago facing Aberdeen with big Umar up front. Iain, we've mentioned Ryan Jack a couple of times now, and the boys' performances, even over the course of the past week, have been outstanding, have been exceptional, and he's quickly becoming one of the most crucial players in this side. Just how far can Ryan Jack go? Yeah. You know, he's at a crucial point in his career now. Do you sort of see him staying at Rangers for a long time, or is there any risk that we could also lose him down to the English Premier League?
Well, I think from Ryan Jack's perspective, he's now training under 2 of the best midfielders in Gary McAllister and Steven Gerrard, and getting the benefit of all their wisdom and experience, and it's obviously improved his game. So if he's got any sense about him, you'll be seeing how well his game's come on, and it was fabulous to see him get those 2 goals through the week at Ross County. He took them really well, and it was so pleasing to see Rangers players having a dig from the edge of the box, because so often we seem to try and walk it in through these packed defences, and eventually it breaks down. So it was good to see him just rattling those shots in, and they were productive as well. But he's been absolutely outstanding, and I think Pete summed up. You know, it's not so much what he's doing when he's on the park; it's how much you notice when he's not there. how we struggle, how we don't tick, and things fall down in all areas. You know, whether it's defensively cover for Tav or reading the game or breaking up the opponent's game. He's been absolutely fabulous at that, and adding goals to his curriculum vitae is the icing on the cake. He's been absolutely superb, and he really plays a straight pass. He's very frugal and economical with the ball, and obviously benefiting alongside Stephen Davis as well. It really, in some ways maybe we're being a wee bit harsh on Aribo and Arfield because Jack and Davis are just so exceptional at the moment. They've been absolutely fabulous. Um, Watching Davis today, seeing him come back, covering every blade of pie. He expects them to come off and face that Greta Thunberg, shouting, "How dare you run about the field with turbo-driven boots?" You know, he's just absolutely superb. But Jack, he seems now to really be blossoming under the tutelage of both McAllister and Steven Gerrard. So I think he can go all the way to the top, particularly if he starts to add goals as a more regular feature to his game. He's definitely got them in it, as we've seen. He's got a few this season. Um, so I think if he added that, you'd almost have the complete midfielder.
Ross, these 2 goals against Ross County were absolutely crackers of goals. Especially the second one, starting outside the post.
Yeah, he curled it in, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, the improvement in him in front of goal this season has been exceptional, and it really has added another dimension to his game. I love the boy's temperament. I love hearing him talk. You can see that he's a smart player. Obviously, captained Aberdeen at a very, very young age, so he's a natural leader. I see him as the next Rangers captain for a number of years, and I really do hope that this is where he ends his career, because I think he's been absolutely superb, and he's shown a lot of people up as well. You know, we pick him up from Aberdeen on a free transfer, and a lot of people questioning that signing at the time, but he's, every season that he's been here, he's gone from strength to strength to strength, and he's just getting better and better. And this week he's just been an absolute joy to watch. There's been an interesting question, lads, that's been posed on the YouTube stream here, which is from Mark Gilmore, and I think it's a fair question. Obviously, today we've gone with 2 wide boys to try and get crosses into the box. We see Barisic bombing up and down the left wing a lot more, trying to get the ball into the area. Shea Ojo is most suited playing out wide, Ryan Kent as well. What does this mean, Iain, for Jordan Jones? And do you see Jordan Jones walking back into the team, or how hard is he going to have to work to try and force his way back into the side?
Well, I don't think he did himself any favours in the Old Firm game with his red card. I don't think Steven Gerrard was particularly impressed with that. But I think, we've been discussing Shea not being imposing enough at times, and obviously at some point maybe Gerrard's going to think, well, I'm going to give young Jones a run, because he has done pretty well for us. A lot better than I thought he would, actually, I have to say. But you wonder how far he is down that line with Barker being featuring a wee bit more. So I don't know. I don't think it's over. You'll need to work hard to get into the team, because there's quite a lot of competition for places, and that's if we're playing 2 wide men. The boy I feel for is Greg Docherty, because at times I think he would be giving a lot more to the midfield and some of the contributions so far this season, and yet he's not featured, so he's not even been near it. So you wonder for Jordan Jones if I heard you mentioning about the contract about is there something that Ojo has to play, because sometimes his performances have been fairly lackluster. and not really posing himself or appearing to contribute a great deal. And you wonder how he's playing week in, week out, given that there's quite a lot of depth and variety there of boys bursting to get through. So, I don't know how that will go. I know he's obviously has fallen out of favour since the Old Firm game and his red card. I don't think he's featured in the first team since then, but he'll just need to get his head down and make himself irresistible to the manager. And that's good that we've got, the boys are going to have to play for places for so long. We didn't have that. That's been spoilt for choice. So it's up to these boys to impress and do something to catch the manager's eye.
The other one, of course, is Murphy. He got a run out on Wednesday, but I don't see in any more of the more difficult games, I don't see him being anywhere near the team, to be honest with you.
It'll take him a while to get up to fitness as well.
I have to agree with you, Pete. I mean, Jamie Murphy, I think the first season that he was with us, I thought he was, I really like watching him play. I think to a degree he's a bit like Shea Ojo in that you always kind of know what he's going to do. He's always going to try and run down the wing to equivalent of the 18-yard box, cut inside and try and get a shot away. And once you've figured that out, for me that's kind of all he offers. We have so many wide players. Obviously, we've mentioned Murphy, we've mentioned Jones, we've got Ojo, we've got Brandon Barker, we've even got Greg Stewart, who's struggling again to get a look in. I wonder as well, Pete, what kind of impact do you think it will have having a new director of football come in? Do you think we might see a lot of these guys, as Ian mentions there, Greg Docherty very much struggling to get a look in at the moment? Do you think we'll start to see a lot of people actually leaving the club in January?
I don't know if it'll be whole of January, but I think there'll be a lot of people leaving in or in January or next summer. I think if Docherty was going to get a place, he would have been round about the team or at least on the bench. So I've got a feeling that Gerrard doesn't really like him. It's a shame because he was a good player, but whether he's still up to the Rangers class that we're aiming to get at, then I've got my doubts. And there's an awful lot of young youth players coming through as well, which we shouldn't forget about. Sometime they're going to have to get a chance. So whether Docherty, no, I don't see that Gerrard's putting anything to get him into the team at the moment. So I worry about him. But whether it's January or next summer he leaves, I think his days at Rangers will be numbered.
I have to agree with you, Pete. I mean, I think if he was fancied by the manager, he'd have been used long before now. Ian, now that we've got through the Ross County game, that's us played all of the opponents in the Premier League. We've dropped points against Celtic and Hearts, whereas Celtic have dropped points against Hibs and Livingston. How much of a problem do you think that many of the other teams in Scotland can actually pose to clubs like Rangers and Celtic? I remember was it the Livingston manager earlier on in the season? It was Brian Rice, the Hamilton manager, saying that the gap between the Old Firm and the rest is bigger than it's ever been. Would you agree with that? I think seen us up against everyone else in the league.
Well, I think on paper there's certainly a lot of gap, but we played Hearts only 2 weeks ago, and we came away with luckily with a point, given how poor we were that day. So no matter what the gap is on paper financially or in squads, it's how they play in the day. So they're showing that we can be given problems, and I don't think we should take any of the games for granted. And if we don't turn up on the day, then we're going to pay the price for that if the attitude's not right. So I don't think there's anything we can take for granted. But I think it does show the importance of getting results in these Old Firm games. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I speak to quite a few neutrals at my work, and they feel that that's going to be the to a great degree the determining factor in where the title goes. So I certainly don't think we can rely on other teams to be taking points that much at Celtic. Although it was good when Hibs did it. It will happen, and it'll probably happen to us as well. I think there'll be. I do think that there'll be a few twists and turns throughout the season, but we definitely need to get those points in the bag from the Old Firm games, particularly at home. That was a bad one to lose. We weren't at the races that day. I think the manager did get it wrong in the formation, and I don't think they were that much better than us. I just don't think we played well that day, and we didn't have our formation right. And I think we strengthened quite considerably since then, particularly with the likes of Ryan Kent, because we were missing width in that day. We were far too narrow, and it suited them down to the ground. So I'm not really confident of other teams taking points. I don't think we should be hoping for it. I think it's something that we need to make happen ourselves, particularly in the Old Firm games.
I think though, when you've got teams like the likes of Livingston, these guys are super fit. So it's going to take a long time to break them down, and plus the fact they've got that big striker up front that they just pump balls up to him, and he barges his way through everything. So I think that's the way that teams are going to take points off of Rangers and Celtic, because I mean all they do is put 10 men in front of the 16-yard box, and it's just like a harmonica going from side to side. So they're not really burning up an awful lot because they're super fit, and they're just they're not running an awful lot really. They're just stopping Rangers playing football. And that's the way the teams are going to beat us. And I mean, that's the way we've lost games in the past and drawn games. And teams try and draw us into a physical battle, which the likes of Hearts took a point off us. And really, Celtic done the same. Celtic got us into a more physical battle than us playing football, which was because of that defeat. So I think that's the way teams like us, we are going to lose against teams like Livingston or drop points against Hearts and Celtic as well. That's where they're going to drop points.
See, I would agree with you, Pete, up until this season, but I really do feel like this season something's changed. You know, I remember this season after we first got back promoted under Mark Warburton, you know, and it really was get to the edge of the 18-yard box and pass it side to side to side, have them doubling up on our fullbacks, ball breaks down, and more often than not, other team pops up the end of the park and scores and we lose 1-0. But for some reason, this season, something seems to have changed. There seems to be a bit more of a tactical intelligence about beating this low block, as they call it, or park the bus if you're a bit more old school. So I don't know, there's a confidence this year, and it just seems that I struggle to see other teams taking many points off us at all. I really, really do. Listen, I think we need to sort of spend the last 15 minutes just having a quick look over the news stories that have broken throughout the week off the pitch. It's been quite a big week for Rangers, obviously. It's been quite a big week for Celtic fans interested in the finances of Rangers, of course, because the financial results have been published this week. Before we all came live on the show this evening, we all sort of admitted that we're not financial experts and none of us went to the Green Brigade School of Accountancy. So we've done our best to have a wee look over the accounts, to look through the statements and try and make head or tail of what it means. For me, the headline is, again, this year, the company seems to be heavily posting losses, with a headline of £11 million in loss this year. Pete, is that something that we should be worried about? You know, is there some kind of concern about the financial viability of the club, considering everything that we've gone through? Surely to keep seeing £11 million in the red it's far from healthy, right?
Well, it's far from healthy. I'm the wrong person to ask. I can't even keep my wife out of my wallet, but it's. I think. I mean, most clubs do have debt. I don't think. I don't think I could name a football. I suppose Celtic, they claim that they don't have any debt, but I think most clubs have debt. So you've got to have a running debt, and we've got to forget that we can't forget. I mean that we're doing an awful lot on the stadium at the moment as well, which should have been done years ago. So we've got that, and that's things that you don't see. The money's going out, but you don't see that. I mean, okay, you might see a painted wall or things like that, but I mean, they've done all things to the roof, I believe. So, which then that'll cost a lot of money. So I think if we want to get to where we are, I think we've just got to accept that we're going to have debt. Obviously, that's got to be kept as minimal as possible. And yeah, as I say, I'm not a financial expert, but seemingly we've made a lot more money than we have been making. So hopefully, we'll start making from the football kits in the future. Hopefully, Dave King wins all these cases eventually against I forgot the name now, Sport Direct, sorry, and we get that sorted out, because I think that will be a big help in our financial situation. But I think we've got to have debt. I don't think we're going to, unless we start selling our top players, and that's not the way I think anybody wants to go.
Iain, what's your take on this? I mean, are we getting in a position now where it becomes inevitable that we would have to sell assets such as Morelos, maybe even Borna Barisic, players like that, to try and get in a slightly healthier financial position? I mean, as Chick puts it here on the YouTube stream, is it a case of speculate to accumulate?
Well, I think it is difficult because I mean, I'm one of these guys that goes through the forum and I wait for certain individuals whose judgment you trust to make head or tail of these accounts. But I mean, I think the general feeling with guys that I know that I would trust their judgment is they don't. There's a mix of good and bad in there. I think Pete touched on it, that we've created more wealth in this set of accounts than we had previously, but there's other negatives. So I don't think anybody's looking at that. I think it's a difficult transitional period. We've had to improve the squad, improve facilities, improve the staffing and the structure of the club. So I would hope that nobody's thinking that those kind of losses are a sustainable model, and I don't expect that they are. But probably at some point, much as we hate to think, some of these players will get sold. I think Pete said earlier, every player has its price. I think what we have to do is make sure we do a lot better than we have done previously, in terms of getting value for players. Because I think, like people saying, if Morelos is going to go, then I don't think we should be looking at under 25 million, given what players go for in England. And given, I think he's got a tremendous record in Europe, so other clubs will be saying that as well, right through the continent. So he's a real asset, but I'm not really wanting to start talking about selling star players to balance books. I think it'd be a lot better if we were to identify revenue streams and the outgoing. I mean, talking about the Sports Direct thing, I think what's quite frightening is the legal costs that we've paid to get very little success so far. So perhaps there needs to be lessons learned there. To be a bit more prudent and before we go pressing that legal button, because I think some of the financial costs were quite horrendous there as well. So I don't really know. I'm not that great on financials, and I normally leave it to other people's reading to get a flavour of it. So there seems to be a mixture of good and bad amongst it all. So just got on with it. Just got on with supporting the team.
Well,
It's
that was the
easy.
thing, Ian. Ian, it depends where you read it. I read
Yeah.
a report from the BBC, and it was absolutely totally negative. And then I read from, I think it was Chris Jack that wrote it in for the Times, and it was just a positive link to it. So it depends. It depends where you read it and how you read it.
Yeah, there's kind of guys in some of the forums who've over the years basically got themselves a fair bit of respect at sifting through them from both their professional and their performances that past at reading those things. So I normally go with them rather than the mainstream media. If I wanted doom and gloom, I would stick to the BBC, but I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. So I'd rather it came from some bears. I'd rather see what their reading of it was, and so you scan through the forums and you see the guys who you kind of trust their judgment and their previous sort of reading of things, and you take what they're saying on board, and that's what I've done. But I certainly don't have the sense to figure it out. But I think the other thing that came across is how much the current investors are keeping the ship afloat. And I think that's something that we should be concerned about in terms of sustainability, because that can't go on forever. It's not a bottomless pit. So we need to start finding a way that we can find that balance between putting a product in the park that's worthy of challenging, and still manage to balance the books. And that's not an easy thing to do, particularly when we started this so far behind in terms of squad and things, and we've had to make quite a considerable outlay because we were so far behind. Not just in terms of playing staff, but the whole structure of the club and how we were operating. We've gone down the DOF model now, so hopefully that'll start to bear fruit. And players like Alfie and you mentioned Borna Barisic, we got them for really good money. So maybe that's the way it has to be, that we bring players on and we do sell at a profit in the future.
But surely we
Who
should
knows?
be the academy. The academy should be bringing up money as well, and we seem to just let players go from that. But surely that's one of the ways to make money is bring up players through the academy. So they're not all going to make it, but you should at least get something back from selling them to other clubs.
Well, look, I think this is where we get the importance of two relatively new staff members at Rangers, and one being Ross Wilson as the director of football. It's very, very important that he does a better job than Mark Allen in terms of moving players out the door for money. That, to me, was Mark Allen's biggest failure, worse than kind of the transfer record that he did have, was that we never really managed to shift anyone on for any meaningful cash, in my opinion. And the second important hire that Rangers have made over the past 6 months is James Bisgrove as the commercial director. And this harks back to what you were saying, Ian, about needing to find other revenue streams. So to me, that's about growing the brand and growing our presence in the international market. So you've seen the tie-up that we have with Bengaluru FC out in India. I think it's a fantastic commercial move. Plenty of articles about him, Mr. Bisgrove, heading over to the States to try and increase the brand over there. And yeah, we're never going to compete in these markets with Liverpool, with Man United, with Chelsea. But if we can just tap into a very, very small percentage of those markets, it's all an increase in revenue. It's all an increase in brand. We have the ideal marketing tool in our manager. Steven Gerrard is one of the most recognisable faces in world football. So for anyone who is concerned, and as I've said in the chat here on YouTube, I was just playing devil's advocate by asking if anyone's concerned about the £11 million figure, because it's not a concern at all. It's predicted, it's understood, it's explained. We have these revenues, we have the fund set aside to cover that, cover the losses that have been posted. So I think we really do need to be tapping into extra commercial revenue, and it's something that we've not done suitably in the past. And you're right, that Pete, that tying up things with Sports Direct will help in that regard, but there's so much other potential that now that the world is so much smaller with technology, with media, that we can increase our brand presence in these other markets, in these emerging markets where there's huge appetite for football. And I think that will really, really have an impact on the balance sheets going, and we'll see that starting to bear out next year, and it'll get more and more and more in the years to come. Finally, the last thing that I want to talk about, Pete, is rumours this week that there's new deals on the table for 3 players on the books. Alan McGregor, Steve Davis and Jermaine Defoe, apparently contracts being prepared for all of them, despite all 3 being, let's say, more senior in age. Would you agree that that's a sensible thing to do, to offer these guys new contracts? Supposedly they'll be some of the bigger earners in the squad. So could that money perhaps be better spent elsewhere?
No, I think, McGregor, I think McGregor's 38, is he? So, he's not that old for a goalkeeper. So I think you can, I know a lot of people say, it should only be 1 year contract, but I can see McGregor going on for another 3, 4, 5 years. So I wouldn't say give him a 5-year contract, but certainly 1 or 2 years. I have no problem with that, because it's what Gerrard said today. Where are you going to find a keeper that can fit right into European games and play the way Alan McGregor does? They're not on every corner. So McGregor is certainly, the way Davis has played this year and playing now, I think he deserves another year at least. And the same for Defoe. Certainly, Defoe scored a lot of goals as well, but he certainly doesn't bring to the party what Morelos does. Morelos' overall game is absolutely fantastic as well, whereas Defoe he scores, but really in certain games that's all he does. If he doesn't score, then he's non-existent. So that's I'd certainly give Davis I would give them a year's contract at least, and McGregor probably more, probably 2 or 3 years contract, because I don't think a goalkeeper is that old for a goalkeeper.
And I suppose with the advances in sports science, with physiotherapy and training methods, that kind of the traditional or the historic ages that players would retire at are becoming less and less relevant. You hear guys like Defoe saying he thinks he can play well into his 40s. I don't doubt that. Famously, he's never touched a drop of alcohol. He looks after himself really well. It's the same with Steve Davis. This guy will tell you when he's not able to play football anymore, but look at the performances he's putting in the park. He's, as we've spoken about today, one of the best players that we've got in the squad at the moment. So to me, I agree with Mark on the stream here. It's a no-brainer to give all 3 the contracts. If they say they can carry on playing for another year, they can carry on playing, and they are invaluable to the squad. The experience that they have, they're all winners. They've all won cups. They've all played European football to a very, very high level. They're all internationals. So I think it is a no-brainer to give all 3 new contracts.
I will go with that, Ross, sorry, but I would really love to see somebody from the academy coming up and starting already to sort of fit into the positions that Davis has taken up, and that over 2 or 3 years that Davis is going to be pushed out, or that's a wee bit hard, but is going to play less, and then a new young player from the academy starts moving in. So that's the way I would like to see it. And there was a youth given a contract. Can't think of the guy's name now. During the week, that we all were surprised that they got it. And I wonder,
Jonas.
Yeah, Baron Joe. Yeah. I'm wondering what's the move there, because maybe Gerrard fancies him to eventually step in.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Of course, it all depends on where he is with his development, and is he ready to step into the first team? And at the moment, I don't care who you are, no one seems capable to me of replacing Steve Davis right now. Guys, I'm looking at the clock, and I'm afraid that is all we've got time for this evening. As always, I'd like to say a massive thank you to both Pete and to Iain for their insightful contributions this evening. It was a fascinating discussion. Guys, make sure you head over to the website at www.gersnet.co.uk, where you can catch up on all the latest news and opinions, plenty of articles, match previews, match reviews, player ratings, a whole lot, as well as a very friendly discussion forum where you can find all three of your contributors tonight. Remember that the show is going to be available for download from Monday morning, wherever you get your podcast, so make sure you subscribe to that and you won't miss a thing. We'll be back next Sunday at 9:30 with another show looking at our latest European adventure and the return to league action. So all that's left for me to say is a massive thank you, as always, for listening, and have a great week.